Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot reader, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about the color yellow in Color Magic. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you love the podcast and want to support it further, I have some other offers as well. You can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family and get an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast, or a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. I recently recorded an hour-long video episode for the new moon that we welcomed in on October 21st, 2025. If you missed the live, you can check out the New Moon Collective Tarot Reading replay. As a bonus for the Queer Joy Summit that wrapped up in October, I created a Queer Coven Spooky Tarot spread and wanted to give you all a chance to grab it even if you weren't a part of the summit. It's Halloween and queer themed, and if you're still in spooky season like I am, you can grab that spread now. It's a 6-card spread. I recently was on Kayla Moore's Connected Pleasure podcast. Kayla, like I am, is a sex therapist and witch. We live local to each other, and so it's so fun to get to both be on each other's podcasts. So you can check out my episode of Kayla's podcast where we talked all about living by the body, dreaming of land, and weaving the future. I'll have the link to Kayla's offer page in the show notes, connectedpleasurecoaching.com, and you'll have to wait a little bit longer for it, but Kayla was also on the Everyday Tarot podcast talking about their experience with tarot, how they use tarot and oracle cards, and we actually both did a spread for each other live on the podcast. So, if you want to see that guest season come out sooner rather than later, please fill out a form to be a guest on my podcast. I'm trying to do a whole guest season. So as you know, I love to have my 13 episodes per season. So I have some of them recorded already with folks, but I'm trying to get a whole season lined up and then have that go out at the end of December. So you'll have that hopefully as the last season of the podcast here in 2025. As my commitment for putting out podcast episodes every day, Monday through Friday, for all of 2025. All right, let's see here. What else do we have to share? If you want to work with me more directly and perhaps you don't live local to me, I'm kicking off my Tarot for Transformation monthly workshops starting in January 2026, where we'll be deep diving into the major arcana cards to discover our best selves and create a life worth living. So if you're interested, right, you listen to the podcast, you love doing tarot, you, right, have some decks and you like to do this by yourself, but you want to kind of learn how to so in this color magic season, I'm talking about how to sort of embrace magic in your day-to-day life. So deep diving into these major arcana cards will also be sort of a way to do that. It will be a bit of a longer term thing, right? We're going to be doing 1 card a month. So we'll go through the first 12 major arcana cards in 2026, committing to 1 workshop a month, or I will be committing to that. If you pay in advance, you'll get a discount if you pay for all the workshops for next year in advance. But if not, you can always join for a one-off of the workshop, and if you're unable to attend live, you'll get the recordings, but right now, I'm dreaming up 2 to 3 hour workshops where we're going to be really deep diving into each major arcana card and in thinking about how do we embody the Fool, right, in January. How do we talk about beginnings? How do we talk about how we view the Fool and people that are foolish, and also how that beginner's mind, how that can help us and sometimes hinder us in the month of January, when it is often, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, the coldest, darkest month of the year. So if you're interested, I have the sign up in the show notes just to get more info. No commitments thus far. And then in the next month, I'll be rolling out more information about the date when we're going to be doing the workshop in January, being able to sign up for that and pay in advance for all the workshops. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And that is sort of how I'm imagining this Everyday Tarot podcast journey transforming into something that maybe is not an everyday podcast like it has been for 2025, but still allows me and others to talk about tarot and to imagine the cards differently and also embody them in more of day-to-day life and get to know the cards as an archetype. All right, so other ways you can work with me directly, or if you don't already know, I am a sex and relationships therapist and coach, seeing individual and relational clients virtually all over from my home office. I love to work with queer, polyamorous, and witchy clients. So if you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. And you can do that at CamilleASaunders.com. Maybe you've heard me talk about creating your own tarot cards and you're like, Camille, that sounds fun, but how? I don't have any art skills. I've seen tarot decks, right? They're beautiful. I could never get close to that. Well, no worries. You can learn how to create your own tarot cards with collage. So if you grab this offer, you'll get my full workshop that I did live and recorded. It's an hour-long recording that goes through my step-by-step method that I utilize, examples of the cards I've created so you get an idea of sort of what's possible, journaling questions to help you brainstorm how you want to approach creating your own cards, and a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. So the link is in the show notes to grab that now, and it's a thing I love to do. It's so much fun. I'll definitely be doing it a bit more as I enter into winter season and am inside a bit more, but kind of once you get the supplies, you can go off and do it all on your own. I have a lot of the supplies and I'll give you the list of supplies I like to use. Everything pretty much can get purchased at the dollar store. Glue sticks, index cards is what we usually make them on. And then, you can just gather your materials, whatever that may be, and set yourself up to make your own tarot deck if you'd really like. If you're interested in my 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, my lovely listeners, at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. So it's sort of a one-stop shop if you want to get updated on everything that I'm up to and kind of get the most, like I said, up-to-date information on any upcoming events, presentations, workshops, things that I'm doing. If you're local to me and you want to meet in person, you can check out my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group. Our next event is celebrating the full moon because I'm holding full moon women's circles. We have one more in 2025, so you can join my colleague Izzy and I under the glow of the full moon for an evening of connection, reflection, and ritual. We meet at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma the first Sunday of the month to welcome in the full moon together. So the last full moon of 2025 is on December 7th, or at least that's when we're celebrating it. I don't remember if that's actually the day that it's on. At 5:30 p.m. at Thresholds Collective, we go for 90 minutes. We do tarot. Izzy gives us some astrological background on the full moon that we're entering and kind of what to know about it. We often do a somatic or embodiment practice, journaling. I usually do a collective card pull, and then we all sit around and do our own tarot card pulls and then share and talk with each other about where there are synchronicities or what kind of feels helpful in that moment. Then, like I said, we move into sort of an embodiment or somatic practice depending on the theme of the full moon, and then we end with a release ritual where we usually write down things we want to release. I bring my mini cast iron cauldron. We go outside, just right outside Thresholds Collective, and burn our things that we want to release for that full moon together. So yeah, it's a really fun time. We can have up to 15 people. We meet in Thresholds Collective sort of yoga studio space that we rent from them. We love that space. It's very welcoming, nice vibes in the evening. And yeah, like I said, we're in sort of a yoga studio space, so lots of props and things to sit on the floor and kind of get into our bodies and into practice together. So you can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull for each episode. All right, well, welcome to season 18, where I'm talking all about color magic. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. I think other ones that would be somewhat relevant would be maybe my seasons 2 and 3. If you like this season and you want more, seasons 2 and 3, I went through all the major arcana cards and like an overview of the 4 suits. So we probably talked about aspects of color in that, and also in season 15, where I talked about tarot and crystals. Obviously, crystals have their own colors, and the color isn't the only thing going on with the meaning and that kind of thing, but it's certainly related. So you could check those out. And then the season I just wrapped up was Autumn Tarot Spreads. So if you're in the fall season right now and you want some inspiration about tarot spreads, I have a nice wide variety in that season. So like I said, today, this season's all about color magic, and today I'm kicking off talking about the color yellow. So if you didn't listen yet, last episode I gave you an introduction to color magic. So make sure to listen to that just so you have a kind of info about what's going on. But yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so I referenced some of these last episode in the intro, but I thought some fun things to talk about with yellow today. So I referenced how I use sort of the day of the week correspondences as a way to talk about and utilize color magic in my day-to-day life. So since I don't put out episodes on Sundays and Saturdays, we're starting with Sunday's color, which is yellow, which is worked with the sun and solar deities, right? Obviously the sun in our solar system is the thing that, right, really keeps us alive. If it were not there, we would be very cold and the planet would be fairly dead, I would say. So yellow and Sunday is associated with magic, dealing with authority, divine power, friendships, healing, learning, reason, and world leaders. And again, we're sort of starting with colors that I feel like we already have associations with, right? Yellow we think of as like a happy color generally, or very bright. Again, like think of the sun and solar deities. What else? So on rachelpatterson.co.uk, they have a post about color magic. So they talk about yellow as being associated with the air element, divination, clairvoyance, mental alertness, intellect, memory, prosperity, learning, changes, harmony, creativity, and self-promotion. So right, it being associated with air in that way, right, we get some of those mental, intellectual, sort of like in your head components like divination, mental alertness, intellect, memory, a lot of different things that go along with that. What else? So yellow also on forum.spells8.com, they also have a article about color magic. So they talk about yellow as being associated with the solar plexus chakra, the direction of east, and the element of air, right? So we have some similarities there, the air and east, right? If you know the sort of 4 directions, that makes sense there. Yellow is the color of power, authority, and control. It's a color by which we map our destinies and locate our space in the world. Yellow is the diaphragm, the great breath, and the light of dawn that represents possibility, becoming, and potential, right? Again, if we think of Sunday in English, right, we're literally calling it's the sun's day. A lot of the other days of the week in English don't necessarily, I guess we have Monday for Moon Day, but a lot of the other days don't, and we have Saturday for Saturn, but a lot of the other ones are not as clear cut unless you kind of look at other languages. You can see a bit more of the connections there. So I'll talk about that more, but again, Sunday in English, we get that one. Yeah, and just that sort of, right, the sun, again, is like what anchors our solar system for us. I mean, there are lots of suns, or there are lots of stars that burn brightly like the sun does, but the sun for us is the one that, again, really keeps ourselves and the planet alive. And I'm sure, at least where I live, there's a lot of people experience seasonal affective disorder, which just means, again, like the seasons are affecting how your mental health is, or even other aspects of health. And where I live, it's pretty rainy, dreary, overcast for a lot of winter. We don't get super cold. I live in Cascadia, or the Pacific Northwest. I live between Seattle and Portland. And it's pretty rainy and dreary here. Now, that works well for me. But not everyone feels that way. And you do start to miss the sun. And as a therapist, I will have clients where when the sun starts to come back out more frequently in the springtime, after we've had this kind of cold, dark, dreary winter, people's mental health like skyrockets when the sun comes back out. It does feel like, oh my gosh, I have like hope again. I'm so excited about things. There's so much possibility in becoming, like that literal warmth, right? That again, we kind of need to live, for the plants to grow, for our whole planet to operate in the way that it does. At least right now, right, even as affected by climate change, right, the sun like rules us in a lot of ways. And I guess I can talk about, since tomorrow we're going to talk about the moon, I believe. Let me check my, no, we're not. We're going to talk about the moon on Moon Day, on Monday. So, but yeah, so, right, we live, at least, again, I would say in sort of the Western Hemisphere, certainly in the US, we live in a very sun dominant society, I would say, or like a lot of the aspects of the sun. We'll talk about the sun card. So I did pull a lot of my tarot cards that are yellow or have yellow as sort of the center theme of the card. Obviously the sun card is an obvious one of them. But yeah, it's just interesting too how, again, I'll talk about it sort of in contrast in the Moon Monday white color episode, but the sun and moon are opposites in tarot, and again, sort of in our day-to-day world too, right? With the sun occupies our daytime, the moon generally at night, although we can't always see it. And where I live, we can't always see the sun, even though it's daytime. It's up there, it's making things bright, but we have so many clouds and rain that it gets really dispersed. It's bright, but it's not that warm sunny light necessarily. It's a lot more of like a blue toned light. Yeah, well, what else do I want to say about that? Yeah, so the sun, I feel like with, again, that sort of like happy-go-lucky, like, I think of like, I don't know, like child nurseries as a kid. I feel like they often were like yellow. Again, that's sort of like optimism, excitement, warmth of yellow. It can also be kind of intense, right? Again, if you think, if you're me and you're very pale and you go out in the height of summer in a hot place in a desert, the sun can feel kind of oppressive. And I think I feel like I see aspects of that in US culture, where we have this very like only focus on the light, only focus on the happy things, only focus on the like productivity, the self-promotion aspect of yellow, the alertness, the intellect, prosperity, sort of all these things that like can be good. And like when taken to an extreme, right, like productivity, like feeling productive usually feels good. And like productivity over like as being valued over our own wellness or our actual capabilities to show up, or as the only thing that makes us feel valuable in a society, like that's not great. So to me, that is sort of the the darker side of the sun energy. And I even honestly feel that way in tarot, probably because of my own feelings about the sun. I grew up in hot places in the desert in eastern Washington state and was always getting sunburned. It was always like I had to hide from the sun. Everyone else seemed to be having a great time and getting tan. Not me. I had to always sort of be like protecting myself from it. And again, I'm sure that that impacts how I view the sun card in tarot. But yeah, and sun is what we celebrate on solstice. So let's see if there's anything else I wanted to share about yellow. Oh, the other thing was on the tarotprofessor.com, they talk about color symbolism, right? Specifically in tarot, which like I said, I'm going to get into the cards I pulled that all sort of have these yellow tones or different things, have the yellow element to them. But if we think about the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it is a very yellow deck. If you have the traditional one, there's yellow on almost every card. So if we think about the color symbolism of yellow in tarot, you'll realize that like the meanings of colors in tarot aren't necessarily as like cryptic as you may have thought. Like again, if you look at the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot cards, there's a lot of symbolism. So right, the symbolic meaning of the color yellow comes from the sun. So right, we can start with the sun card in tarot. The sun gives us warmth and light, both of which we need to thrive and feel secure. Yellow is positive, optimistic, bright, happy. So obviously we have the sun card, but you can also look at other cards in that deck, like the Four of Wands is a very yellow card. A lot of them have yellow backgrounds to them. So if we think about the Four of Wands, it often depicts like a joyful celebration, a union, a wedding, a homecoming. Right, the background of the card is bright yellow because often those events are this like, right, high energy, bright, happy, optimistic about the future events. But sometimes in tarot, right, in that deck, figures will actually wear the color yellow. So maybe the background isn't necessarily yellow, but we have in like the Queen of Wands, the social butterfly of the tarot, right? She's sort of positive, cheerful, outgoing, lights up the room she walks in. Again, with Wands energy in particular, we have that fire energy, right? Another thing, the sun is literally a ball of fire. So first of all, there's that. But also that like, yeah, wands in general are going to be pretty aligned with the color yellow in tarot because they're associated with the fire element. They are that like spark, right? A lot of the words that we use for creativity, like, oh, I'm getting a spark of this, or it's burning, right? When we think about passion, or I feel like there's another phrase here, but anyway, we have that sort of like creating something from nothing aspect that is often associated with fire and right, the color yellow. So the Queen of Wands, again, lights up every room she walks in. So of course she's wearing yellow. And so, right, if we didn't think about how the colors impact our messaging, right, you would say like, oh, I don't know how to get that from that card. Well, utilizing color magic and understanding a lot of the symbolism associated with colors helps inform our understanding of the cards. So, right, you wouldn't be able to glean that message from the card as intuitively as if maybe the Queen of Wands was wearing purple or black, right? That gives off different energy. Tomorrow we're going to talk about black. And so, yeah, right, we have that aspect here. So I just thought that was helpful to talk about. I was looking at my own sources that I have available to me about yellows as well. I don't have anything that specifically talks about color magic. I shared in the introduction episode for this season that Gabriella Herstick was someone that I heard talk about yellow or color magic in general. But yeah, so I do have the Library of Esoterica tarot book by Tashan. It's a beautiful, very artistic book. I used it in all of my like going through each tarot card seasons to talk about the cards and use the information there. So they have like examples of decks at the beginning that talk about sort of the different like graphic styles. And so the Tarot de Marseille, which is a French like the French birthplace of the deck. It's a French deck. You've probably seen them. Again, it's a pretty classic deck, but utilizes basically only these cards I'm looking at: yellow, red, green, and blue. So again, these sort of very strong, bright colors. Right, we had the Rider-Waite-Smith traditional deck. There are decks that have more of the gold tone. I am going to talk about gold separately from yellow because I do believe that energetically it feels different. But yeah, that is a deck that also utilizes a lot of yellow as accents or symbolism. Not always in the background, but again, a lot of like accent colors. What else? There's also the Etiella deck that was created by French occultist Jean-Baptiste Alliette, and there's a lot of yellow on these cards. It's used a bit more sparingly, but again, often associated with like sunny elements or what else? Sort of brightness. It's used a little bit less sparingly. Again, we have the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which uses like the sun card, the yellows on there. We have yellow sunflowers. We have like the Fool often has a yellow on it because again, we have that sort of like promising hopefulness, the beginning of a journey aspect. What else am I looking at in here? The Hermit often has that lantern and perhaps the Hermit's staff as depicted in the Rider-Waite-Smith traditional deck by the artist and illustrator Pamela Coleman Smith. That a lot of our iconography that we're used to comes from that deck. So that is part of why I speak about it. Yeah, and I do think the Fool and the Magician cards often depict a lot of yellows or yellow as accent. In the Golden Dawn Tarot, the Fool card has yellow and gold in it. The Nap Hall Tarot actually uses yellow as the color for like most of the major arcana cards have the word of the name of the person on there, like the Fool, it says that, so they use that as a background for the actual names. Again, the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot on the Fool card, the whole background is yellow. We also have the sun. They have yellow on their outfit, yellow boots that they're wearing, and even sort of a yellow tint to the card. What else? We have the Barrios Tarot. It has more of like a yellow orange color, so I will talk about orange again specifically separately. And then often with the sun card we have sunflowers depicted as well. And yeah, the Magician also often has a lot of yellows to it. So let's talk about the cards I pulled from my deck. So the ones I thought of first is that I Know in My Therapist Who Tarot deck by Rebecca Bloom, illustrated by Rebecca Bloom and prompts by Drea Bloom. They use a lot of color, I would say, symbolism in that deck. So I pulled the sun, of course, that one stands out. It's not just yellow in this one. It says represents good fortune. The figure in it is actually sort of like a redder, pinker color, but then we have the sort of yellow sun aspect of it. And then honestly, the Five of Spirals I also pulled, which the Five of Spirals would be equivalent to the Five of Pentacles. In this deck, pentacles are one that changes a lot. So some depict it as pentacles, some as coins. Spirals would be sort of like the most historically relevant one, since spirals occur in nature. And of course, fives aren't always like a happy-go-lucky card, but we have this sort of yellow brown tint to this card where there's a bit more about insecurity or worry. So almost like it's still bringing up that like almost like the opposite of hopefulness or positivity, as emphasized by that card. The other deck that I wanted to talk about that I knew had specific yellow cards that I remembered was the Herb Crafters Tarot by artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert and written by Letitia Guthrie. So I know the sun card in this deck depicts St. John's wort, which is a bright yellow flower, beautiful and often harvested on solstice in herb crafting. It actually has red elements to the actual like stamens that are inside the flower. So a lot of people will make infused oils with St. John's wort, and actually the oil turns like a blood red, but the flowers themselves are this like delicate yellow 5-petaled flower. So very magical in that way. So I knew that one was in there. And then I also pulled some other ones, and it's fun because of course they're all plants in here. So you'd be familiar with the sort of yellowness. Again, we have the Fool, which here depicts dandelion. So we have that again, the bright yellow flowers, right? In early springtime, summer flower association, and dandelions are very versatile too. So I think of that. And again, because the Fool is sort of kicking off the major arcana, the first card, we do have this like optimism, hopefulness for the journey. I also pulled the Magician, which in this deck depicts the sunflower. Again, not all sunflowers are totally yellow or even fully or at all yellow, but we have those sort of like fire colors generally with sunflowers. So often a lot of yellow, some are like more yellow gold than others. And I do have a lot of sunflowers that actually are redder or have like ombre colors. So even in this one that's depicted in this image, has yellow tips, but then more right in orangey red towards the middle. And then the other card I pulled that I don't know if across decks it is yellow, but was Witch Hazel, which is the 2 of Earth, which again would be associated with the 2 of Pentacles. So that makes me think about like, oh, maybe because something about pentacles, spirals, coins, right? Coins are often yellow or have, right, historically been sometimes gold or other warm like elements there. But yeah, we have Witch Hazel here, which is like a winter, it's a tree, right? If you've ever used it in skincare, it's taken from the bark of the tree. But yeah, it has sort of like bursts of yellow. I guess they're flowers, they are, but they're very striking in winter because of course not very much is blooming in winter, and especially not yellow. And the tree itself kind of looks like very twiggy and thin. It doesn't really have leaves, but it does have these kind of fun bunches of yellow flowers. I really want to have some Witch Hazel trees. Maybe I will plant some at this property. But yeah, I thought all of those were very cool. I was going to look in another deck real quick to see if I could find more Pentacles cards if they had yellow on them, because I'm not totally sure why. I mean, right, Pentacles are like the earth sign, like in the material realm. What am I looking for? I'm looking for Pentacles, which in this are cactus. The Sun card in here certainly has yellow in it in the Desert Illuminations Tarot deck. The Queen of Wands has yellow, as we talked about. Trying to find any Pentacles. I guess this one does. This is the Page of Cactus, or Page of Pentacles. Has a lot of green on it on this card because it depicts aliens, but then it has a very yellow aura to it. The Fool has yellow in this deck. They depict it as the trickster, but again, that yellow background that's seen in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And here's a Three of Pentacles, where again we have a more yellow background. It's not totally yellow, it has pink as well, but we have these sort of warmer colors. So I think maybe the yellow does come up perhaps a bit more with Pentacles, and certainly with Wands as well, like I said, because of the sort of creative spark, fire energy of it all. But all right, so those are the cards, right, that I pulled that I felt like had what was I gonna say, like yellow in them that I remembered. I am gonna go ahead and pull a tarot card randomly to see, to dive in and see what the cards have to say today on this topic. So I did have the question kind of, how can we work with the color yellow today, right? Again, as you're listening to this, it's Thursday, or at least that's the day it came out. As I'm recording it, it's Wednesday. Neither of those days are associated with yellow so much, but like I said, yellow is for Sunday, and I don't put episodes out on those days, so we had to make do. But yeah, how can we work with the color yellow today? Oh, I pulled a yellow card. I picked the Four of Chilies, which would be the Four of Wands equivalent, and I think I got this card yesterday, or perhaps it was in the I think it was in the 11/11, the last tarot spread of the autumn tarot spread season, but I think I pulled it in reverse, so different, but let's see here. But I guess the message is still relevant if it's coming up again. So the Four of Chilies, as the sun sets over the pueblo, a woman relaxes and gazes out, admiring her environment. She is surrounded by an abundance of chilies, right, the Wands equivalent, and fine pottery. She basks in the glory of a brilliant sky, satisfied with her life and all her achievements. It's time to celebrate meeting all your personal goals. Absorb this moment and appreciate all the good things you have in your life right now. You deserve to feel happy, joyful, and comfortable in the home environment that you have cultivated for yourself and your family. If you have been working tirelessly to achieve your goals, now is the time to sit back and take a break. Settle into your home and make it even cozier and more beautiful for your newly acquired lifestyle, right? So again, we have these themes of joyfulness, celebration, comfort, happiness, right? We've achieved the goal. We're settling in, we're getting cozy, right? So, okay, that's what you've been told today. How can you work with the color yellow? Be satisfied with your life and all of your achievements. Absorb the moment and appreciate all the good things you have in your life right now and actually celebrate it, right? I do think that that is often what the color yellow really embodies, is this sort of like celebration, even when maybe it's small things or doesn't feel like it's a holiday necessarily, but it's like, right, finding the joy perhaps in the daily things, in the more mundane aspects, and not having to wait for a holiday that's on the calendar in order to allow yourself to feel that. So thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. If you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, click on the link in the show notes to indicate your interest in getting more info. I'll be sending that out. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.